So the cheer, "Let's Go Brandon," was conceived in an October 2nd NASCAR race after Brandon Brown won his first Xfinity Series and was being interviewed by NBC. And the crowd behind the interview was chanting, "F Joe Biden." But the reporter suggested they were chanting, "Let's go Brandon." And thus the phrase was born. Well, on Friday morning, a Southwest pilot that flew from Houston to Albuquerque signed off from his greeting over the intercom to passengers and ended his welcome to New Mexico with, "Let's go Brandon." After news of the public dissent blue check, Twitter had a meltdown comparing the pilot that poked at Biden to a pilot that theoretically might praise ISIS before taking off the tarmac. Reports confirm that the pilot is currently now under investigation after he used the phrase as a way of docking Biden. In a statement, Southwest Airlines said it is conducting an internal investigation into the reported event while continuing to remind all employees that public expression of personal opinions while on duty is unacceptable. I mean, listen, if you're going to say, "Let's go Brandon," when you're signing off, to me, that would be something you do when you're quitting, not just like, you're saying it as you're landing. Do you remember that? What was it? It's JetBlue. I think this was back in 2010. There was this flight attendant who was really mad at his job, and he gets on the intercom and he says, "I've had enough. 20 years of this. I quit." And he grabs 2 beers and deploys the slide, and he slid out of the airplane, in epic fashion. I mean, that would be like the way to do it. You're gonna be like, "Let's go, Brandon."
Yeah.
Wait, the slide, get out, right?
Yeah, I think, look, I think if it would be perfectly fine for, whoever's the boss, whoever's in charge of this pilot to say, like, yeah, maybe don't make political statements. We don't want that. And a lot of our people flying don't want to hear that. Like, that's fine. Can it just operate at that level? But instead, now you have, I was seeing all sorts of people on Twitter yesterday being like, why hasn't he been fired yet? Why haven't they taken swifter action? Well, because he's probably in a union and has due process. You should not. It's wrong to just fire people willy-nilly based on Twitter controversies. So, and then there was even people saying imagine if he'd said something pro-ISIS, you'd think they'd have done something like those are remotely the same kind of level of statement.
Imagine if he would have just said that about Trump. I mean, he would be praised by Twitter, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah.
Well, he would if he said it. What if he'd said yes? Right. Well, then he'd be a resistance hero, right? If he'd said something bad about Trump, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Man, my whole take on the "Let's Go Brandon" thing is that it's kind of funny. It's kind of cute.
The initial video is really funny, where the reporter or whoever it is gets it wrong. That is hilarious.
Yeah, and the whole thing is I think kind of funny. Now I agree with Robby and I don't need a political lecture, from the pilot just as you're about to take off. But what I tell my kids when one of them is bothering another one, it's like, look, they're just trying to get a rise out of you. Ignore them. They're trying to provoke a reaction. So that's what I would say to liberals out there who are frustrated at this "Let's Go Brandon" thing. They're trying to get a reaction out of you. Just laugh at it and move on. It's not that big a deal. It's even a little bit funny.
And conservatives who want to be like, why is this a big deal? Why can't the pilot say something political in a non-political context? I have to remember, they were really mad about that in sports when sports people make minor political gestures, right? They're like, no, how dare you? Keep my politics out of that. This is very similar, exactly similar.
Except that the person kneeling right before the football game wasn't about to press buttons and take you into the sky.
Right.
So in fact, the people complaining about the pilot's expression of politics are even on safer ground, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely reprimandable. I'm not going to. It's definitely reprimandable. This pilot, should get maybe definitely a discussion with the management. No matter your political views, I don't think you should be expressing them, at work in front of a bunch of people when you don't know what their political views are. But to compare it to ISIS is a bit much.
Well, of course he might, and also this is why you don't just fire people willy-nilly based on Twitter controversies. For all we know, he doesn't know what the real context behind "Let's Go Brandon" is, right? That it's not obvious. You have to know the thing. I've talked to people, even people relatively politically keyed in, who are like, wait, what is that? I don't get what that is. So maybe he he just thought it's something people are saying. So it might not have even been intended as a political remark, which is why you should not, rush to conclusions to punish people for speech.
Good point. I mean, he might have just thought it's just something that evokes laughs, and he just wanted to get some laughs out of the people. Right? All right. Well, over the weekend, American Airlines canceled more than 1,400 flights, citing weather and staffing issues. Vaccine mandates implemented by airlines have also given rise to staffing concerns. The Allied Pilots Association, a labor union representing thousands of American Airlines pilots, have told pilots not to let looming vaccine deadlines distract them in the cockpit. Union leaders, as of now, say the deadline for American Airlines employees to be vaccinated is November 24th. In New York, a last-minute rush of jabs boosted the vaccination rate to 83% amongst police officers, firefighters, garbage collectors, and other city workers covered by the mandate as of 8 p.m. Friday, up from 76% a day earlier. One thing that I found particularly interesting about the mandate in New York, we've got a lot of these right now. We have a lot of police and firefighters that are protesting this, calling in sick and whatnot. But when they say, this is you're risking us, and then they start talking about sanitation workers. I'm like, oh my gosh, this person's collecting your garbage. This person is like waddling, just like in crap. I mean, they're putting themselves in so much danger all the time, exposing themselves to all kinds of stuff. Anyway, it just seems a little bit like, I don't know, the garbage worker.
And also, right, you're probably not coming within 6 feet
of anybody
of a sewage. Now, fire and police, if you get into some unfortunate situation, you're definitely going to be, very close to them. But garbage people, you're not really going to be anywhere near them. I feel like with the percentage getting pushed over 80%, plus you add natural immunity on top of that, you're probably pushing 90+%. It does feel like even the strongest advocates of the mandates could at this point start to say, you know what, just from a public health perspective, it's not even that necessary anymore.
Yeah, but the advocates for public health are still probably afraid to let their kids go out and trick or treat, right? I mean, unfortunately, I wish that was the case, right. But unfortunately, epidemiologists have been the category of people most hysterically risk averse throughout this whole thing. I agree with you, and I think that. Even a minor sort of staffing shortage, especially in the airline industry, could, and I think it would be minor, but it could still have. I think we're seeing, credibly, some of it having some effect. Flying has gotten just worse, and it gets worse every year. It gets more unpleasant as there are more stupid restrictions and security measures, and so anything that would even more negatively impact that means of travel is going to make more people drive, and then there'll be more car accidents, which is the really dangerous thing.
And also on that point, so Trump in the CARES Act passed money for the airline industry. Democrats, Republicans, Trump, everybody got together. We're going to give money to the airline industry so they don't have to lay off all their staff, so that once the industry gets going again, they'll be ready to move. Then in December, because they only got it going through December, not into January, February, like would have been more sensible, then it lapsed in December. And during the lame duck period in between November and January, when Republicans were still in control of Congress, they didn't extend it. And so you wasted all of this money. I mean, I'm glad that they got paid. But from the federal government's perspective, they spent all of this money on wages for airline employees. Then in December, pulled the money. And so then they all start getting fired. And then in February, they passed new money, February, March. And then people start flying again, and the workers aren't there. So you went 90% of the way there, and then you got cheap at the very end. It's just the most perfect kind of portrait of incompetence from our government.
Yeah. Anyway, tomorrow on Rising, we have another great show planned for you all. Jennifer Holdsworth-Karp and Rachel Bovard are back for Team Rising. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you all then.
See you then.